Phillip Thomas played baseball at DBU from 1988 to 91. He was on 3 teams that went to the NAIA World Series, and he's our guest on today's edition of Coming Home. Let's go back to that 88 season. As a freshman, a team that won 51 ball games that year. You were named to the NAIA All-World Series team that season. What do you recall most about that freshman year for you?
You know, being a freshman, when you come to college, you're not real sure what to expect, for one thing. I know going into my freshman year in the fall, coming from high school, your mentality is still with football. You're thinking about football. And so I had to change my mentality to baseball because back then, we didn't have baseball 12 months out of the year. It was just during the baseball season. So the mentality was different back then than it is today. So going through that process was a change. Getting to the spring season, I was going to redshirt. Starting out the first couple weeks, Coach Harp had brought in some infielders at midterm. After about 2 weeks, he called me in his office and he said, "Hey, I'm going to let you compete for the starting job." And so I competed, got it, and 4 years later, I'm still the shortstop.
4 years later, 175 wins, I think, over those 4 seasons. 3 teams that go to the NAIA postseason. What were the traits that made those teams so successful?
With any successful business or team, it starts at the top. Coach Harp, he was the ultimate coach. He was the ultimate motivator. He kept us all in line. He got the best out of all of us. Coach Harp, Wayne Pogue was here, Al Scherbaum. Those guys, you can't talk about those years unless you bring them up. Our practices were top notch. They were long, but they were in depth. We were always prepared. I know that's a big cliche about working hard, but that team did work hard, and he made sure of that. So he was the glue that kept everything together, on that. Some of the things that happened, like I say, he was a big motivator. I can just recall some instances where I was in a slump, and it was just like yesterday. We were in Houston playing, and I remember I was coming up to bat, and I was in a slump. So my mind, I'm thinking, I gotta get a hit, I gotta get a hit. That's what's going through my mind. And so I'm the first batter for this inning. It's like the 4th or 5th inning, and we're in the first base dugout. And my mind is, I gotta get a hit. Well, Coach Hart runs out the dugout, coming to the third base box, and he just comes by me and passes me on the shoulder and says, "Relax, you're too tense." I take a deep breath right then and just let it out. And then the first pitch I see is a fastball. I hit a home run. Now, I'm not a home run hitter, so that wasn't common for me. So I'm coming around third base. Coach Harp has a big smile, and "You relaxed." I didn't know I need to relax. I just knew I needed to get a base hit. But he saw that, and then he made that comment. He could have gotten my face, because he was a fiery coach, but he didn't. He just told me those.
Coach Harp had a knack, as you talk about him, to seem to push the right buttons. And over those 4 seasons for you, there has to be a number of just great moments that stand out. What are maybe a few of those, and you think back on that 4-year career to say, man, those were some great times?
We played a tough schedule. We were a small school. We were NAIA back then, but we played all the big schools around. I think a lot of times, we had a chip on our shoulder because we knew we were as good as those guys, that were at the big schools. I think it was my freshman year, we went to Arkansas and played them. They were on a 20-game winning streak, and they had tied the school record for the winning streak, and we were the next game. So we come into town, I think we beat them 8-2. And so we went out to eat, in Fayetteville, after the game. So we're sitting out, people are coming to us, wanting to know who we are, that we ruined their day because they were going to celebrate that night. It was a great day for us. It wasn't a great day for Arkansas at that point. And then I think it was my sophomore year or maybe junior year, we were at Texas playing, and we beat Texas. At that time, it's like 18-5. It was the worst that Texas has ever been beaten at Disch-Falk. And so, after playing those guys at that level and competing and actually winning, we knew we could do that, And then, you talk about the friendships that you make over those times. there's guys that are still some of my best friends, and this is 30 years later, you know, and we get together all the time and do the events here. We go out and eat. So those are some of the memories that will always last.
You know, you've stayed close to the game of baseball, signed as a free agent in '91 with the Marlins. Take us back through that and how you've remained in the game of baseball still today.
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much when I was here. You know, being here at Dallas Baptist and then playing in the Marlins organization for a few years, you know, you just soak it in. You take in everything that a coach tells you. I was fortunate enough to move back to East Texas, start a family. I actually met my wife here at DBU. So we started a family back in East Texas. Growing up, my sons, once they got to the age where they were starting to play baseball, I started teaching them. I put a cage in my backyard and started teaching them as they were getting older. And then, you know, the dads were wanting me to start teaching their sons. So it just kind of compounded over the years until I had to make a decision because I was too busy doing my regular job and then doing baseball lessons every night. So I opened up my own academy. And 12 years later, here we are, you know, and it's Thomas Hitting Academy. We've got our teams are the THA Sticks. And, you know, we have over 10 to 12 teams every year. We've won 5 national championships. We've had 10 state championships. We've 2 elite Disney teams. In 2013, I had the opportunity to take a Team USA to Italy for a 10-day tour. And so we got to play some teams over in Italy, you know, for a while. So that was just a blessing, you know, to be able to do that and to be able to stay in the baseball.
This is Phillip Thomas. He's helped lay the foundation for the success of this DBU baseball program. He's been our guest today on Coming Home.